Welcome to Dykema Drives, an automotive podcast from the Dykema Law Firm. I'm your host, Kirby Howard, Government Policy Advisor in Dykema's Washington, D.C. office. For more episodes, you can find us at dykemapodcast.com or by searching Dykema Drives, wherever you get your podcast. Today, we'll be diving into the policy and legal decisions being made right now in Washington and what they mean for industry and the companies building the next generation of transportation technologies. At Dykema, our advanced mobility and transportation group works with the companies across the sector, including OEMs, Tier 1 suppliers, infrastructure providers, and technology companies. And they do this on the legal and business challenges that come with deploying new transportation technology. This series brings that conversation to a broader audience. Dykema turns 100 this year. We started off from 1926 repossessing cars to today, where Dykema now litigates the ones that drive themselves. That arc, from mechanical machines to the advanced intelligent transportation systems that they are operating within today, is the story of this industry. The roads we build today are no longer just asphalt and concrete. They're becoming a digital layer. You have sensors, you have data, you have algorithms that talk to the vehicles, talk to each other, and increasingly make real-time decisions about traffic, safety, and mobility. TS America calls this digital infrastructure. And today's guest has spent her career on building this, and it's an honor to introduce Laura Chace, the president and CEO of ITS America, the Intelligent Transportation Society of America, the leading national voice for intelligent transportation systems. So, Laura, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to this. Glad to have you here, too. So today we're going to cover a couple of things. Roughly, who is ITS America and what the annual conference in Detroit revealed about where the movement is headed, what it means for the supply chains and policies that get this infrastructure deployed, and what Congress can do before September 30th to get it right. So with that, Laura, before we get to the Detroit and kind of set the stage, I want to talk a little bit more about who is ITS America, who does it represent, and what are the core priorities heading into the second half of 2027?
Yeah, great. Thanks for that introduction, Kirby. So ITS America is the only national trade association that is focused exclusively on transportation technology and the use of transportation technology to make transportation safer, smarter, and more connected. So what we do is we bring together the full innovation ecosystem of public agencies who are deploying the technologies, private companies who are actually developing the technologies, and research institutions who are advancing research and seeding the policy to advance a vision of a better future transformed by transportation technology and innovation, one that is safe, smart, and connected. Our focus isn't just on the deployment of technology because technology is, cool or for technology's sake. It's really about ensuring that that vision translates into real world outcomes for the traveling public, getting to your destination safely and in less time, and knowing what to expect and being able to travel efficiently, safely, and seamlessly through our transportation system. ITS America has been around for 35 years. So we were created back when these technologies that we talk about were really nascent. And as I'm sure we'll discuss today, there's been so much evolution in the development of these technologies than what we're seeing today is really, a different world from what we even imagined 35 years ago. And it moves really fast. And so that's what we're focused on. We're focused on bringing together those players to ensure that we can actually deploy those technologies in the system in a safe way. We're also focused on the policy landscape, as you mentioned, because a lot of times, as no surprise to you and your members, emerging technologies aren't necessarily considered in the policy and regulatory landscape. And so we work to make sure that these technologies are considered and are able to be incorporated into the transportation in the most effective and seamless way.
We definitely have come a long way. It's been a pretty exciting experience too, to watch it develop and evolve as it has. And you talk about your diverse membership and kind of, issues and members that are there. That coalition definitely showed up in force in Detroit at the annual expo. It's always very exciting to visit TS America's summits and some of their expos. It's an exciting opportunity to experience the latest technology firsthand, as well as for the people and companies that are showcasing their innovation. It felt like a little bit of a turning point and a transition with everything that's been going on and evolving. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about what happened there while we were in Detroit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely was. The technologies that are available today, they're not theoretical, right? They're on our roadways, they're being deployed. Whether you're talking about automation in different form factors, whether you're talking about different types of connectivity in the transportation system, whether you're talking about AI, right? And so many different use cases that we're seeing, and so much more, right? The use of drones. We had some drone drops at that conference. And we're really seeing so many more tangible examples of how these technologies are being integrated into the transportation system. From maybe it's infrastructure inspections being handled with drones, right? Or perhaps it's AI-powered smart intersections that are truly adaptive and allowing for safer crossings for not only vehicles but also pedestrians and cyclists. There's so many different examples of what's happening today in this space. And Detroit was really great because it actually showed all of that as the kids say, IRL, in real life, right? In demonstrations that you could experience out on the streets of Detroit and the greater Detroit area. And so that was a really exciting, I think, turning point for the industry, is to say that all this stuff we've been working on for a really long time is real. It's come to fruition. It's deployed on our streets. It's providing benefits. Just a couple maybe quick examples. In Detroit, they've seen a 30% travel time reduction from some, AI powered real-time data incorporation into the signal technology. They're seeing emergency response 11 minutes faster with some AI-based crash detection and predictive analytics. So there's some real, I'd say, impactful benefits that come to communities when you can actually integrate these solutions in a comprehensive way. So I would say that was, I think, an exciting turning point in Detroit to see all of that technology just out in the system. And then, we had a really great showing from not only our ITS community of members, but also from USDOT, from the governor of Michigan. And I think that, they all understand and realize that we have more tools at our disposal now in our technology toolkit. And they're all trying to figure out, how do we actually get these out into the world in an accelerated time frame. And so I think there's a lot of movement and momentum around that. And we were really excited to host them there and show them what's happening in Detroit, but also around the country.
Yeah, I mean, the venue is a great venue. The place being Detroit, I mean, what a great time and opportunity to do that. And then with having USDOT and a lot of the state leadership there, I mean, the energy, the vibe seemed pretty well, and it really demonstrated the fact of where this momentum and where this movement is going and the collaborative efforts that are there. So thank you for kind of touching on that a little bit. I know, speaking of the federal leadership, I know, USDOT has continued doing a lot of great work on behalf of safety and technology. And just last week, you had NHTSA issued a thoughtful call to action on how automated vehicles interact with first responders. That is exactly kind of the engaged safety first leadership from USDOT and NHTSA that this industry needs and appreciates. ITS America's members have been working on these very solutions for years with a lot of different technology options, and they stand, as well as ITS America, to be a resource, an answer that call, for this call to action. So, with a little bit of that and the momentum that's on the ground right now, and you see the landscape ahead, what does it demand of Washington right now?
So first of all, I just want to echo what you said, and we really appreciate that NHTSA administrators focus on safety, and we bring sort of like both sides of the coin together, if you will, in that issue, right? So we have the ADS developers, but we also have the states and cities who are managing their streets on the ground, and we see that there's opportunity. Right, to ensure not only safety in the deployments, which I think is everybody's, first and top concern, or top priority, I should say, but also that there are technology solutions out there that can help us do this in perhaps a more effective way as we start to move forward and we start to understand what are the data feeds that we need to be sharing, what needs to be in real time, what doesn't need to be in real time, how can we do that, at scale, and that's a lot of the work that we're working on. So I'm going to pivot to Washington, to your question about Washington. So, really what we're focused on in Washington at a high level, of course, is surface transportation reauthorization, as many transportation organizations are. And, in that realm, we've been really focused on a message that digital infrastructure and technology should be treated as core infrastructure in this surface transportation bill. And that's really important because, what you set as a priority is what you fund. And if Congress can actually take a real meaningful step in treating technology not as an add-on or a nice to have, but as an essential element of our transportation system and infrastructure that, is a core piece of it, that actually helps at both the public and private sectors accelerate getting these tools to market and getting them in the system so we can actually, move people more safely and efficiently. So we're very focused on our policy recommendations that do just that, that would enable technology to be treated as core infrastructure. And I'm happy to elaborate, on some of the specifics around digital infrastructure or, other technology, let's say, families that, that we care about.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like maybe you can do a little bit more of that leading into some of those discussions, as well as kind of what the reception you've seen from some of those committees and from some of those members that are doing surface transportation.
Yeah, I think, I think there's an understanding that technology is an essential element of our transportation system as we sit here in 2026 and consider, a 5-year reauthorization bill. I think that there's always an element of change is hard. Change is hard for everyone. So everybody wants to figure out, well, if I do that, do I have to give something else up, right? So I think that it's not necessarily that the congressional staff don't agree or align that technology is really important. It's around giving them, I think, a path to do that in a way where I call it sort of a yes and approach, right? Where you're still investing in all the core physical infrastructure elements that we absolutely need, but you're adding on this really robust digital layer of technology. I think that the things that I would say the elements that we hear are that congressional members want to make sure that all of this new technology is and existing technology is deployed in ways that are secure, that maintain privacy, data privacy, and that ultimately that we're, thinking about and supporting workers as we go through this, I'll say, technological evolution. And those are all things that ITS America is extraordinarily supportive of. And we have, a lot of policy and resources that support all of those things, from the, the critical importance of secure networks and the resiliency that a digital layer can bring to those networks, to, maintaining data privacy and ensuring that we are transparent around those issues. And then, of course, on the workforce front, we know that these technologies do change roles and they do require some new skills. These are not technologies meant to displace workers. They're actually technologies that in many cases can make the work environment safer and can actually make it safer and more efficient for our workforce. And so we want to make sure that we're, supporting all of those things throughout this process.
It's a great background. So can I go in a little bit deeper on that? You look at the Section 1103 definition, it's a really kind of a proxy for a bigger question. Does the Senate see digital infrastructure as a core transportation policy or as an add-on? And the clients that we work with across the sector are watching that, pretty closely and monitoring that development. How Congress answers it will really shape the compliance obligations and deployment for deployment timelines for years to come. Your work at the Senate Commerce made the case that it is foundational. Now, kind of pivoting from some of the comments in your recent hearing and kind of the white papers, let's talk a little bit about, what deployment actually requires on the supply chain side. So, supply chains are rapidly, reorienting around Buy America, Build America, or BABA requirements. How is the ITS sector navigating that transition while still deploying the best cybersecurity, safety, and operational technology available?
Yeah, so it's I would say, so first of all, the ITS sector is, committed to aligning with the new BABA requirements. And I view this, um, let's call it this, reforming of the supply chains, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? Everyone wants to move expeditiously, but we all understand that you can't, move global markets overnight, right? And so we need to have those on ramps to ensure that we have the technologies that we need available to us as we're working to actually achieve the goals of BABA on security and domestic manufacturing and job creation, which we're fully aligned with. Right now, we're working collaboratively with our members and with USDOT to kind of issue spot on areas where we think we might need to have a collaborative approach. And we're looking at an approach that meets our domestic goals, doesn't compromise any kind of safety or cyber security or operational performance, but does, give companies that time to ensure that their products and, that the technologies are going to meet the requirements. And like, as I said, it's not going to happen overnight, but they're moving as quickly as possible. So we're working to make sure that we bridge that gap and have a collaborative process. Ultimately, we want to be able to help be a leader in moving these supply chains to the domestic side.
Yeah, and I think you guys are doing a great job too. I mean, it's the right time for the conversation. I mean, what we're kind of witnessing is a sector and its industry is trying to do two things at once: honor a domestic mandate for manufacturing and maintain the integrity of safety critical systems. That's not so much as just kind of a lobbying angle. It's more so an engineering reality uh, of what's available and where things are at the current timing. Then the clients that we're advising, whether it be tier one suppliers or roadside infrastructure providers, OEMs or whatnot, are navigating it in real time too, with their design challenges and innovation, and what their outlook and planning and development looks like. They're all subject to some of these decisions and things that are being shaped right now. I know that ITS America has been very engaged with the actively engaged with USD to find that path collaboratively. And so this collective collaborative engagement is definitely the right approach, and appreciate the work that you guys have been doing. Uh, you know, Kind of transition a little bit further, kind of really the last question here I have for you. What would you say is the single federal action ITS America most needs from Congress in the next 90 days?
Well, if I could wave my magic wand, I would say surface transportation reauthorization, right? Having a new 5-year bill. I mean, as you know, the technology doesn't wait. Just look at how quickly some of these different AI tools have evolved. Look at how much automation has advanced even in the past year. And so, my concern is tech is moving really, really fast. We need a bill that is delivered as soon as possible that actually has those funding sources, that prioritization, right, that integration of technology in a meaningful way. Because every day, every month, every year that we wait, we're falling behind. So it's really critical to our global competitiveness. It's really critical to all of our safety goals as a nation. And we can do it, right? I mean, we can actually do it. So that's what we're really pushing for is surface transportation reauthorization. And within that, of course, is making sure that we treat technology as foundational, not as, an afterthought, not as a nice to have, but really as essential. And I'll just say this last little anecdote on this, Kirby, is, when we talk to our public sector leaders who are, having to invest in modernizing their infrastructure, they really understand that there's only so much they can do with physical infrastructure. They really understand there are challenges they're trying to solve, whether that's congestion reduction, whether that's safety, whether that's just mobility efficiency, all of these things, freight movement, that they can only go so far with the physical system that they have and continue to build. And they're really looking to leverage these technology tools, but we need the congressional priorities and policies to match that and to catch up. So I think that's, in my view, why it's so essential, so timely, and hopefully something that everyone can align on, because we're hearing a lot of positive support for it. And so we just want to really make sure we can get it, make it a reality as quickly as possible.
I agree. It's amazing. And thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
I mean, the technology is ready. The coalition's been built. The federal and state leaders are actively engaged, and the stage is set, and the clock now is running. So, September 30th is not just kind of a soft deadline for innovators, for integrators, suppliers, infrastructure providers. The upcoming decisions that Congress makes will shape the compliance posture of this industry for years to come. At Dykema, we work with participants across the entire ecosystem, whether it be regulatory compliance, supply chain restructuring, cybersecurity approach, product liability, commercial transaction, as this technology moves to the market. To learn more about ITS America's work, including the Transportation Digital Infrastructure White Paper, visit itsamerica.org. For more episodes, you can find us at dykemapodcast.com or by searching Dykema Drives wherever you get your podcasts. Laura, thank you very much, and thank you, ITS America, for the great work that you're doing. This is Kirby Howard, coming from Detroit to DC, and we definitely look forward to seeing you next time on Dykema Drives.